I felt like, oh my word, we have almost arrived. We need cubicles. So I started looking, where do you buy cubicles? So I started looking at office supply places and I was like, oh my word, they were unbelievably expensive. I'm like, there's no way. Online, I found an auction. They had the list of things, and part of it was cubicles. I'm like, boom,
Oh,
I'm going to the auction. I
yes.
went, parked myself right down at that auction, and I bid. And I was only one of the few people that bid on these cubicles. Now, I will
Right.
tell you, Kent, they were great. They were great, but they were pink. Hey, Kent, how are you?
Good, good. Thinking about starting a business. Do you have any suggestions for me?
You, Kent? All right. Welcome.
Thank
Welcome to the
you.
world of entrepreneurship.
Thank you so
Don't do
much.
it, Kent. Don't do it. No, I'm joking. I'm joking.
Run for my life, huh?
Yeah. Unfortunately, when I started my business, I didn't have anybody telling me, okay, here's what you need to do one, two, three. So kind of learned the hard way.
Sure.
But if you're starting out, Kent, here I can't tell you in detail based on what kind of business you're going to do. Is it going to be retail? Is it going to be consulting? Is it going to be what? So those specifics I'll leave to you. But I can give you some general pointers about some things that were important for me to get set up in the beginning. And the
Okay.
sooner you get them set up, the smoother rolling you're going to be.
Okay.
So I would say number one, I'm going to give you four things. Okay. So number one, Kent, I'm going to call it governance and record keeping.
Okay.
Governance and record keeping. And another word for governance, I'm just going to say, or another phrase for governance, I'm going to say get legal. Get
Okay.
legal. So there are certain things, if you are going to operate as a business, that you have to register with your Secretary of State in your state. You may have to have a business license. Depending on what you're doing, you may have to have a sales tax certificate. There may be some fees involved with getting set up.
Okay.
And so my recommendation is to find out up front what it is that is needed to get your business legal. Now, for me, I think we've mentioned before, I started out just as a sole proprietorship, which is
Right.
the least onerous way to do business. You essentially file it on your own tax return under your social security number.
Sure.
And that's how I started for a short period of time until I realized, hey, I've got a business here. Then I needed to form another entity for my business. And I sat down with a CPA who was very good to advise me on the different methods of organizing your business. And he recommended a limited liability company. And he gave me the reasons for that. Now, I'm not an expert on all the different ways that you can organize a business. There's an S Corp, there's a C Corp. So I'm not advising you on that, but I will say an accounting professional, a CPA, or a bookkeeper, or even an attorney that works with small business can help you determine what is best for your business. But for me, it was a limited liability company. And what that meant is I had to fill out a form with the state of Tennessee and I had to pay a fee. And there were certain filing requirements, annual filing requirements that I had to do to be in good standing with the state. So, what I cannot stand is someone trying to run a business saying, you know what, that's onerous. That's just government being government, and let's just see what we can get away with. Oh, I hate that.
Okay.
No, no, no way. That's the last thing you want to worry about is running afoul of the law. So get legal. It's not hard. It's just a little bit of paperwork you have to do. There's some fees you have to pay. Find out what your schedule for filing is. If you've got employees for doing payroll taxes and social security, all those sorts of things. So a good resource that I found, at least in our state, was the Secretary of State website for the state of Tennessee had a lot of resources for people that are starting or that own small businesses. I'm sure SBA, the Small Business Administration, has a lot of resources on their website. So you find those things. I know I found webinars that I attended online, many of them free, that gave me really valuable information that I needed to know to make sure that my business was in compliance with my state. So I highly
Got it.
recommend that.
Okay.
That's governance. Second is record keeping. So important, Kent. And not everybody is good at this. I recognize that. But keeping records from the get go, whether it be of your income, of your expenses, if you're incurring personal expenses that you're going to then deduct as a deduction as a business expense, keeping up with those kind of records and those receipts, so very important. And the tendency is because I know you get involved in trying to build the business and meeting with clients and selling and whatever it is you're doing. And you think, you know what, I'll do that later. And you push it off because it's not fun, it's mundane. But those things are important. And it's important, I think, to do it on a regular basis. For instance, my business involved selling my time from the get go. I would bill by how many hours I spent on working on a particular issue for a client.
Of course.
So it was very important for me to keep detailed time records. Also important, particularly as I started traveling from one office to the next, keeping up records with my mileage because I could save tax money on that. And believe me, you want every deduction, every break that you can get. You want it, but you're not going to be able to capture it unless you keep good records. So I kept detailed time records, and then I established a time every other Friday, I'm going to send a bill to my client. I've seen some businesses that bill when they feel like it. That's not a
Um,
good practice. You want to establish an order, number one, so your clients can get used to it. And number two, so you don't get behind. The worst thing you can do is get behind the eight ball on some of this record keeping. And obviously, the sooner you bill, the sooner you're going to get money back in return. And that was all the motivation that I needed to get
of
my bills
course.
out in a timely fashion.
You said keep them up regularly. What does regularly mean? Obviously, if you're hourly consultant, that's daily or every other day. All the other types of records, what would you suggest as far as let's say my business won't be hourly consultants?
Yeah, I would say at a minimum monthly. You want to every month you want to balance your checkbook or your bank statement
Right.
to whatever system you have. And QuickBooks is so easy today. There's QuickBooks online. When back in the day when I was working, we didn't have QuickBooks online. You had to pay for QuickBooks. For me, it was a big fee. And so I didn't use it. I used a free version of Quicken for a while. Now, eventually we went to other systems, but having a system that you can put all of your information in, if you can enter it daily, that's great. If you can enter it weekly, that's good. But at a minimum, you've got to update that monthly so you can know monthly where you stand. And so monthly is a good option.
Okay.
Now, if you are not, and I don't know, Ken, if you're good at accounting or not, but
No.
and when I say accounting, just keeping up with
Oh,
financial records and that sort
right.
of thing. But if you're not, then I highly recommend that you get somebody to help you do that, whether it's a spouse, whether it's a close family member, a close friend that you can trust. It might be a situation where you're in a partnership on the business with someone and one person is really good at the numbers and the other person is really good at the sales or getting out and bringing in the business. But it's so important to not let the accounting and record keeping lapse. You really need good records. So I would say with that, keep up with the mundane, keep up with the records. Number
Got it.
one, governance and record keeping. Number two, this is kind of weird, but it was my life, it was my story. I was a master at resourcing secondhand goods. Now, you laugh,
Okay, I
Kent,
can. No, I laugh. I think I know where this is going. Go ahead.
but have I mentioned that when I started my business, and for some time after that, I didn't have a lot of money.
Right.
There was not a lot of capital. Capital is another fancy word for money. There was not a lot of capital to buy things like computers and desks and
Er,
phones and all sorts of stuff. So If I could buy something for pennies on the dollar and maybe it's got a dent or a scratch in it, didn't bother me one bit. I absolutely mind those kind of deals. One thing, you use whatever resources you have at your fingertips. So I was in the business of helping businesses upgrade their computer infrastructure. And many times that meant we would go in and replace their computers, their printers, their servers, their switches, whatever it is. Many times they have no need for the old equipment. Obviously, it's old. Some of it may still be
Right.
functional, may need to be refurbished. Here's what I would do. I would say if they had something that I thought I could use in my business, I say, "Well, tell you what I'll do. These computers, they're X number of years old, so you're going to get nothing for them hardly.
Right.
Number two, that's got proprietary data on it from your firm. So if you send it out, you're sending proprietary
Yeah.
data out to who knows. Here's what I'll do. Absolutely for free. I will format that hard drive and erase forensically, because I could do that, forensically erase all the data so that none of your data is on there. And in return, you just let me have that old computer that you're going to throw away anyway. And that was a win-win. I took it
Brilliant.
off their hands.
Right.
And we had the expertise to be able to wipe it so their data is gone. So I did that a lot. I hardly ever bought a new computer. I used old stuff. And then another interesting remembering this is we also sublease space.
Yeah.
I couldn't afford to go out and get a brand new lease at an office. They were wanting like 10-year leases. I didn't want to do that. They wanted
Right.
personal guarantee and all that. I didn't have that. So I negotiated with a law firm and I said, you know what? It would be really nice. This is after I started hiring people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, you would be a preferred client because we would be on site pretty much all the time if you would lease me these 3 offices that you have in your downstairs that you're not using.
Oh.
Boom.
Yeah.
Win-win. We're on site and we have our own office. Now, once I did that, we had those 3 little offices, but they had these really old-timey desks in them. It really was not conducive to because I was hiring, like, techs at that time, and so we'd have a room full of techs, and I'd only have 2 desks. So I'm like, "You know, I I think we've grown to the point I think we need cubicles. You are a real office when you
That's
have
right.
cubicles." And I felt like, "Oh my word, we have almost arrived. We need cubicles." So I started looking, where do you buy cubicles? They don't sell them at Walmart. So I started looking at office supply places and I was like, "Oh my word, they were unbelievably expensive." I'm like, "There's no way." Online, I found an auction. They were an auction house that was auctioning off the goods from some business that had gone out of business, and they had the list of things, and part of it was cubicles. I'm like, "Boom,
Oh.
I'm going to the auction." I
Nice.
went, parked myself right down at that auction, and I bid, and I was only one of the few people that bid on these cubicles. Now, I will
Right.
tell you, Kent, they were great. They were great, but they were pink.
Oh no.
I think the correct term is mauve, but to me, they
Okay.
look pink.
Okay.
But you know what? They were mine, and I got them for nothing. I
Okay.
think I actually I think I actually paid somebody to come and put them up. I paid him more than what I paid for the
Sure.
cubicles.
Oh wow.
And it worked. I didn't care what color they were. They
No.
worked, and we now had a real office, and I had a room full of techs all working in the same office, partitioned off with these cubicles. And so I did that over and over again. My next set of cubicles that when I needed more and I had to upgrade, they were used cubicles as well. They were not mauve. They were not pink. They were good color, good
That's
bland
right.
off white.
Okay. All right.
So
Excellent.
being a master at just finding those secondhand deals, saving your money, being very frugal, so important in the early days. Cash is so precious, and so that was a major emphasis for me.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Number 3, I would say as quickly as possible, begin to systemize your practice, your business, whatever it is you do. What I mean by that, in the early days, it's chaos.
Right.
In running a small business. There's new things coming at you all the time, and you're like, "Oh, this is new." Everything is new. Everything is the first time experience, and so
Right.
It's just I get it. It's just like you're getting hit from all sides. But as quickly as possible, as you can, if you can create a system and establish policies and procedures for your business, that is so important. Now you're operating according to a code of these are our policies, these are our procedures. Something as simple as what are our hours going to be? I mean, it was important
Wow.
for us. We had to have regular office hours. We're going to be in at 7 a.m. to 5 or whatever it is because our clients depended on that. So I had to know I've got to be in the office, during these
Sure.
times. So establishing policies and procedures for me was an important part of growing the business. And
Right.
as a matter of fact, we did something. I've got it still here. I brought this to show you today. Can you see that, Kent?
Yeah. Thumb
So
drive,
that
right?
that is about a 20-something-year-old thumb drive. And I've kept it
Okay.
on purpose because in the early days, all all of my formation documents, all of the early documents that I have for my business are on this thumb drive. Now I've copied them
Okay.
off to another safe place, but I've kept this for posterity. So on here, I have like when I started interviewing employees, okay, what is going to be my procedure? How am I going to interview? What is going to be my questions? What is going to be my questionnaire for references? What is going to be my policy and procedure for that? Now, I'm the only one doing it, but I still needed a procedure for how I'm doing that. When I did payroll, how do I do payroll? I documented all that. All that is on this thumb drive.
Okay.
So then we began to grow and we began to get employees. And it was important. Particularly, I was hiring people that had tech experience. Maybe they'd worked for another tech company or worked in an IT shop at another company, and they were working under a set of policies and procedures for that company. So it dawned on me when they come to work for Logic Force, I've got to have a set of policies and procedures for these new employees.
Okay.
And so we began to do a document. We called it the Logic Force Bible. The Logic Force Bible is on the thumb drive. And it, as much as possible, and it's probably laughable now, but for that time and that day, it served us well. Every situation that we might face, we tried to create a standard for how we address that. For instance, if we had a new server install we had to do for a client, they're going from server X to
Right.
the next version. We wanted, regardless of what tech was assigned to that project, we wanted to have a standard um, list of things that you need, a
Right.
checklist of things. And so that was what was in our Logic Force Bible. That's what I mean by systemize your practice, come up with policies and procedures.
So it's not just HR. It's not just the basic how we present ourselves, etc. It's
Uh,
literally or in your case, physically. Here's how to switch out servers, steps 1 through 75, or whatever it might be.
here's how we run the business. You need to put your time in at the end of the day before you leave the office. That was a policy we had. All those things that were important for us to be successful, we incorporated into some sort of a policy or procedure. Now, obviously, over time, that evolved and it became an HR thing. Late in my business, as we became a mature business, I actually hired a lawyer to write our HR manual, our employee handbook. But in the early
Okay.
days, I did it myself. I would not submit it to an HR um, contest to see who has the best document. Mine would not
Yes.
win, but it served me and it served me well to get us rolling. So
Right.
that's the number 3 thing. The number 4 thing, and I'm going to say, I don't know any better way to say it, is so important, Kent. You start your business, bring order to your day.
Okay.
Bring order to your day. That might mean different things to different people. It might mean time management. It might mean creating a workflow. Um, but again, small business is chaotic. And if you're not careful, events can overcome you and dictate your schedule. And sometimes you can't help it. I get that. But when you just let events knock you from day to day. You're going to find yourself being unproductive and being reactive. You want to be proactive, not reactive. And so one day I was, and perhaps a client had noticed maybe I was being that way. I don't know why this client gave me this advice, but I'm thankful that he did. I happened to walk into a client's office. He was sitting at his desk. He was an attorney. He goes, Philip, there was a book on his desk. He goes, take that book and read it. It will change your life. I'm like, wow, that's pretty powerful. Change my life. Okay, I'll do it. I did take the book. I did read it. It did change my life
Oh,
because
wow.
it helped me with this point right here, bringing order to my day. And I've got the book here for you.
Okay.
It's an old book, but it's Getting Things Done by David Allen.
Okay.
And it was revolutionary for me because as a young um, entry level business person, what it taught me was a way that I could control my schedule, control my calendar, and feel like I'm in control rather than just being blown by everything. So, what this book, I'm not going to retell the book, but in essence, what Alan is saying in this book is everybody needs a system that you put to dos, calendar events, reminders, notes to yourself, whatever it is. You need a system. He does not prescribe any particular technology or software
Hmm.
or any particular. He goes, whatever system works for you is fine, but commit to it and never deviate from it.
Oh, wow.
I've got all sorts of gadgets and I use all sorts of technology. So sometimes I would do a voice memo to myself if I wanted to remember something, or I would send an email to myself, or I would use my to do list, or use some app, or even with a sticky note, physical sticky note, sticking it to my monitor. Don't forget to do this. So I had reminders everywhere. And consequently, things would slip because I never knew where to look for the next thing.
Right.
Following his prescription, I decided, okay, I got to get this under control. I got to get my day and my time under control. So I am going to commit. I used Outlook religiously, emails from clients,
Right.
and so on. So I'm going to use Outlook Calendar as my system. And
Okay.
everything that I have to do is going into that system. And I'm going to check that system every day, every day, every day, because that's my guide. That is my guidebook of what I've got to do. So I did that, and that helped me. It helped me to manage meetings better. It helped me to manage client interactions better. I could, at a glance, see my week. I could, at a glance, see my day and know what's coming up. But I was very adamant. Anything that came up, client calls, I want to see you next week, next Thursday. I've got to put that in my system. If I don't, if I just write it down or something, I'm going to forget it. And so that book was revolutionary for me. And I followed it, like I said, religiously
Yeah.
until one time when I didn't.
Okay.
Okay,
Tell
this
me.
is painful.
Yeah.
So I did in the early days, and really all the way through my business, I did a fair amount of presentations for different attorney groups, bar associations, legal administrators, and so on. And it was part of my marketing of the business. And one of the things that we did, we evolved, we began to do what we call trial support or litigation support, where we would go with an attorney team to trial and we would manage all the technology in the trial. There's a lot of
Okay.
technology involved in trials, documents, electronic documents, video, all these sorts of things, even setting up temporary networks in the courtroom and that sort of thing.
Hmm.
So I did this, and so I wanted to get the word out that we do this in addition to all the other things we did. And so somehow I got an invitation to speak at a conference that was going to be in-house counsel for a number of large insurance companies.
Oh,
Insurance companies are involved in a lot of litigation. So
yeah.
it was a target rich audience for me. And these are the attorneys that I wanted to pitch my services to. And so I got an invite. They were having a meeting in just south of Nashville, a city called Franklin, about 30 minutes south of Nashville.
Okay.
And I was like, wow, I don't even know how they found out about me, but I was so grateful. This was a great opportunity. put it on my calendar. Yes, star that. I put it into my system, and it happened to be on a Monday. The weekend prior, I'd had some family and friends in town, and it was a rare weekend of entrepreneurship where I did not think one time about the business. I had fun. We went out, we did things, we went out to eat, we laughed, we talked, we socialized, and not one time did I think about the business all weekend long, including not one time did I look at my system. You probably know what's going to happen, right?
Yeah.
My normal practice would be on Sunday afternoon. I look at my system and I say, okay, here's what's coming up this week. So I'm
Right.
chew it up. I didn't do that. And so it was a wonderful, beautiful weekend. I get up Monday morning. The sky is blue. The birds are chirping, and I'm feeling like $1,000,000. And I go
Right.
bebopping into the office. I'm whistling a tune. I'm just like, wow, life is great because now I'm back to my business. I sit down at my desk. I fire up the computer, and the notification pops up. You have your presentation in less than an hour,
Oh.
30 minutes south of Nashville.
Oh.
I That's the first time I had thought of it since I don't even know when I
Right.
had looked at it a couple weeks ago or whatever. It came up on my on my radar because they schedule these things out months in advance.
Right.
And so when I first saw it, immediately I just froze. I just panicked because I thought I'd missed it,
Right.
and that's the most horrible thing ever. And then I looked closely, and the starting time, again, it was less than an hour. But I thankfully I had the presentation on my laptop already. I'd given it before, I'd given it many
Okay.
times. So thank goodness for that. So I grabbed my laptop and I rushed to the garage, got in my car, and I drove literally 100 miles an hour to get to
I bet.
Franklin. It
Yeah.
was at a hotel conference center. I drove up to the parking lot, got out of the car. I'm trying to slow down to catch my breath so I don't get into there just heaving. And as I walk into the door, the doors for the conference room where all the sessions were happening, they opened them up and people were coming out from the previous
Previous session.
session.
Okay.
There was like a 5-minute break, and then I'm the next one, or maybe it's a 10-minute break. I literally did not stop. I said, "Is this the session for such and such?" They go, "Yes." I walked into the door, walked up to the stage, set up my laptop, caught my breath, and gave the presentation. I came that close to missing. How
That's
embarrassing would that have been? Because I deviated from my system one time and it bit me. Can't get a system to order your day and stick with it.
that's perfect. What a great story too, with a happy ending.
I didn't get any kind of feedback from that presentation. I don't even remember how I did.
Sure, of
Like,
course not.
luckily I knew the material, but I was so frazzled. There's no telling what I said. And it was a large, I would say there's probably 100, 150 people there. So,
Okay.
it was not just a trivial
Right.
deal, but
Right.
it was close. That was
That's
close.
great.
I really paid attention to my system from that point on.
I
I
bet you
really
did.
did.
I bet you
To
did.
this
What?
day.
Yes, yes, I would think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you have family and friends over, you still got that hour on Sunday afternoon. You got to take advantage of.
That's just, some practical things I think getting started that would have helped me if I'd started them a little bit sooner.
Right.
Um, Number one, governance and record keeping. In short, get legal.
Okay.
Number two, become a master at finding secondhand goods. In
Okay.
other words, be frugal. Number three, as quickly as possible, systemize your practice and come up with policies and procedures. And then finally, number four, get a system to order your day and
Got
follow
it.
it to a T.
And then that's the David Allen book, Getting
David
Things
Allen.
Done.
Yeah, there's another book that I didn't read in the early days. It's a newer book, but it is also a good one for kind of managing chaos and bringing order to chaos, particularly in a
Okay.
business. It's called Come Up for Air by Nick Sonnenberg. love this book. And it does recommend some specific newer technologies that you can use to help like manage meetings, manage
Okay.
projects, manage clients, manage employees. Excellent book as well. So those are two books that helped me, one in the beginning and one at the end.
Okay. All right. This has been excellent. Thank you so much for sharing your expertise in this area, Philip. Nuts and
All right,
bolts,
Kent.
part 1.
Go out there and start that business.